James Lynch and Duane Finley here for Spectation Sports, talking about Showcase MMA 24 coming up here March 26th at the Meadowview Convention Center in Kingsport, Tennessee. Duane, how's it going, man? Excited to talk about this card with you.
Oh, I'm always excited to talk to you, Lynch. Like I said, you're the most handsome man in Canada. I mean, that's a big thing right now. I mean, I think Devin Sawas from up there, so that's a big. So he's on the comeback. You know, I don't think he ever left, but the Sawas sauce is in full.
Yeah, and this is a pretty sexy card we got coming up here on the 26th. A lot of action. I know you talked to some of the fighters here. Let's start first with Jeromy Mitchell, someone we've been pretty familiar with here at Spectation Sports. He's going to be taking on Dallas Manspile. What do you know about this fight, Duane, as far as a style matchup? Mitchell 3-1, taking on the debuting featherweight.
Well, what's funny is it's, you know, in this sport of ours, Lynch, when we do our research, it's funny when you run into one of your brotherly love. And I found myself researching on an old Lynch interview. See, you know, like I said, you're still handsome all this time later. But you know, I talked to Jeromy leading up to this fight, and it's interesting because in the interview that you had spoke to him. He was getting ready to face Stephen New for the title. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He was undefeated at the time, and he was fighting in his first main event, first title fight, and pressure. You'd ask him about pressure, and you know he'd kind of like played it off. Well, now he saw pressure from a different end because he lost that fight, and he's coming back, and it was interesting to see that even though at such a young age, I love this kid's composure. Because he's looking at it like, okay, look, I didn't have all the pieces. I had the pieces together, but I was missing some of the intangible parts of it. Now I've experienced that, and that's gonna weigh in his favor. Manspile's a tough opponent, kind of wild, you know, kind of as game as they come, as they say. But I think Mitchell gets back on track on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you here too. And a little bit of context there. The guy he fought, Stephen New, had 10 fights. It's a big jump up in competition, right? Mitchell had only had, I think, 3 fights until that point professionally. Stephen New's a pretty, big household name in the Midwest. So that's one thing to sort of keep in mind as well. And, a bit of a layoff coming into this one. So that Stephen New fight was back in March of 2021. He did take a boxing fight in October, but this will be the first MMA fight in over a year. So a bit of pressure going in, but Mitchell, like you said, 3-1 brings a lot to the table. Dallas had a 6-5 record as an amateur. So a lot of experience going into this one from the amateur side of things, but the first pro fight, Duane, you know, when you make that jump, it's a bit of a leap. So we'll see how it goes, but I think Jeromy Mitchell gets it done here. I think this is the right opponent for him coming off that loss to Stephen New, and I could see him coming back and bouncing back in a big way here. So I'm going to go with Jeromy Mitchell as well. All right, let's get to the catchweight division because this is an awesome weight class here. 175. We've got Gregory Sizemore taking on Jason King. King I'm very familiar with, interviewed him a handful of times over the years. And right now, it looks like most people are favoring King in this fight. Which way are you leaning in this one, Duane? And what can you tell us about this fight?
Well, I want to tell you that you're gonna get a kick out of this, Lynch, when I say it. But for those who don't know who Jason King is, he's the Chris Lytle of Tennessee MMA. Like this dude does not know how to have a boring fight. But I will say this, that because we covered a bunch from Valor back in the day, the Flow Combat days, or the Valdemar days we don't speak of. But the interesting thing King told me to lead up to this fight is this is going to be his last fight. He's retiring, and he's putting the focus on coaching from here on out. So if Jason King does not know how to have a boring fight, and he's putting an extra emphasis on making this one exciting, they better have the ambulance on standby. And I will say this about Sizemore is he's coming down. As you mentioned earlier, no relation to Tom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's coming down from Michigan for this fight, and it's his second time because COVID has kind of, wreaked havoc all over the place. But Michigan has been a mess, and he came down before the fight. I believe he fought Sullivan, who's
he did. He was also on this card. Yeah.
Yes. So he's been down. He's fought for Showcase before, but I don't know if he realizes what he's getting into with the Asia persuasion. I think it's going to be, as they say, unfortunately in our business, fireworks. But it's going to be worth watching, and I'm going to go with Jason King on this one.
Yeah, Sizemore a little bit older here, 37 years old. Jason King, 32. But you mentioned it there. A lot of inconsistency. Understandably, wants to retire at this point. Pretty big guy for the weight class. He's 6'3" with a 73-inch reach. One of his losses, actually, not that long ago, was actually back in 2020, was to Raymond Daniels in Bellator, right? The famous kickboxer. So he's been in there with some of the best. He also has a win over Stephen Hagg. There's a lot of experience going into this fight for Jason King. You mentioned it there. There's a lot on the line here with him retiring and going off. I think the match is tailor-made for him. Sizemore, again, 37 years old, lost to O'Sullivan. That was actually his first fight, which he fought O'Sullivan back in August or September of last year. Prior to that, he hadn't fought since 2019. You mentioned the pandemic, so he's only had one fight since basically July 2019. So a bit of a layoff coming in there, but I like Jason King. Again, the experience is what I look at in this matchup, and I think he goes out there and shines. Okay, last fight we're going to talk about here on the stack card. Chase Gamble taking on Dylan O'Sullivan. We just referenced Sullivan there. This is going to be at 185. And again, a lot of people favoring O'Sullivan right now in the matchup. Duane, how are you looking at this fight?
Well, I'm going to say this. Gamble's a live dog if there's ever been one. I spoke to Chase last night, as a matter of fact, and Chase said that, he's shown glimpses of what he has to offer. But he mentioned that something we don't often hear guys talk about, Lynch, is that, he tried to be the man that the promotions need, step up, step in, let him go. And it hasn't really worked out in his favor in the majority of ways, or the ways that he would like. So he had a full camp with this. He knows that he's coming in to face a guy that he should lose, or he figures the promotion wants him to lose to.
Of course,
basically to promote O'Sullivan. But he did say one of his finer quotes was, once we get in front of each other, he's going to realize that I'm not the typical piece of meat he's used to being fed. And if he's going to want to come out hard and fast, that's the time he can't mess up. If he does, I'll get him out of there quickly. Now, I will say on the flip side, I am a Dylan O'Sullivan fan, man. This dude, if you get the chance to speak to him, I don't know if you have, but you'd think he was from San Diego, not Tennessee.
Hair and everything.
He's chill. He's laid back, but he is all business. He definitely is aware of, the pressure of the moment. He also stepped out and took a boxing match recently against a guy who's pretty damn good and gave him hell. So, he's about that test too. So, I think O'Sullivan's going to get back to what he does best in MMA. But I think it's going to be an exciting fight. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there about Gamble. Dare I say, we're going to take a gamble in this fight, because I'm also going with Chase Gamble in this one here. 7-7 record. The experience, you look at that, 14 professional fights compared to just 3 for O'Sullivan. And you look at some of the guys that he's fought. Joseph Pfeiffer, remember, he was on Contender Series. This is a guy that, reached the high level here. So it's not like his losses are best. Yep. And you got to look at some of the opposition that he's fought along the way. He fought Alan Crowder, actually, the same Alan Crowder who fought Greg Hardy, right? So nice. It's just exactly. So it's a little crazy that this guy has so much experience and is sort of being brought in as the guy to lose. Now, I will mention O'Sullivan. You just look at the 3 pro fights. He does have some amateur experience as well. He actually went 8-5 as an amateur, so keep that in mind too. But I think Chase Gamble can go in here and surprise. He's not that much older either. He's 32 compared to just 27 years old for Dylan O'Sullivan. So if you're looking at maybe an underdog on this card, I think Chase Gamble, pun intended, is worth the gamble. Again, it's Showcase MMA 24 going down March 26th, the Meadowview Convention Center, Kingsport, Tennessee. We'll have all the updates and all the information up on Spectation Sports. For myself, for Duane Finley, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy some awesome regional MMA action on March 26th.